Can you tell us when the last time the two of them spoke?
I mean, I'm also not going to get into private conversations that the president has with his family. We've been pretty consistent. That's nothing new. We're just not going to get into it from here.
Republicans say that they have to take this vote formalizing an impeachment inquiry because the White House is stonewalling them. What's your response to that?
The White House is stonewalling the House Republicans who have been really pushing this impeachment without any evidence, without doing this political stunt. I mean, that's what they've been doing over and over again. And we have said it. Other Republicans have said it. There's no evidence here. There's none. Look, I just said at the top, they're going to go home tomorrow, right? They're going to go home this week. And what have they done? We need critical aid to Ukraine. Have they gotten that done? We need to secure the border. Have they gotten that done? We need to make sure we avert a government shutdown in January. Have they even had conversations to get that done? And instead, they focused on baseless political stunts. Baseless political stunts. That's what they continue to do. Instead of, they're focusing on the president's family instead of focusing on the American family. You've heard me say that over and over and over again. And since you say that you're saying, they're saying that we're not compromised or cooperating, they've gotten 100,000 pages of documents. They've interviewed witnesses for 40 hours. And those documents and those witnesses, things that they asked for, have actually refuted their false allegations over and over and over and over and again.
Well, these matches say you're lying.
Instead of doing the work of the American people, they're doing this. They're doing political stunts. And we've been very clear about that. I'm just going to go to the back a little bit. I'll come back. Go ahead, Rob. I haven't called you in a while.
No, you haven't. Thank you very much. You just said the president was familiar with what his son was going to say today. Was the president involved in drafting it, discussing it? Did he offer advice?
I don't have anything else to add. He was familiar. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, and you asked what the president, what his stance was on people who defy congressional subpoenas. In 2021, he was asked that question specifically and said that he believed the Justice Department should prosecute them. Is that still his position for people?
I don't have anything to add to what you just quoted me from the president. I just don't have anything to add. Anybody else? Okay, Gary.
Thanks, Karine. As John mentioned in his talk, where today is the 1-year anniversary since the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit, and the White House put out a fact sheet listing some of the actions that have been taken, including high-level engagement, which included the Vice President, but it did not mention any announcement about the President's visit to Africa, which he told leaders he would do. Is that still a priority for this President, given that there's only 1 year left of this administration?
Yeah, it is still very much a priority for this president. He strongly wants to go to Africa, has obviously has strong desire to go to Africa. And let me just say, it's been unprecedented number of 17 of his cabinet members and other principals has traveled to the continent to talk about meaningful exchanges, right? To talk about how we can work together. And so I don't have anything to announce at this time, but obviously he takes that very seriously. He does have a strong desire to go to Africa. Let's not forget, a year ago there were 49 leaders from the continent here, and it was also an unprecedented summit. And so we are way ahead in what we said we were going to deliver on in those conversations and coming out of that summit. And so, yes, will he go to Africa? He has a strong desire to do so. We just don't have anything to announce at this time.
I mean, as the administration continues to work on those commitments to Africa, it also has been applying a lot of pressure to Uganda over its anti-homosexuality bill, which includes visa bans, AGOA being restricted. But as it's happening, there are other countries that are drafting similar bills. Is the White House concerned that this is going to undermine the momentum of this pressure being applied to Uganda over this bill?
Look, the president is always concerned on any type of human rights violation, any type of legislation or actions that's going to certainly go after underrepresented, communities. He's always going to be very clear about that, always going to have those very straightforward conversations. I can't speak to other countries, right? I don't have the specifics on what exactly that they are speaking about or changes that they want to make, but just like we've been pretty clear about what Uganda is doing and spoken very forcefully, we're going to continue to do that. Again, the president has, when it comes to human rights, the president has always been very clear, has had those conversation with leaders of countries, and he doesn't hold back. He doesn't hold back.
What the hell is the world coming to?
Okay, that's all.
Thank you. So Senator Durbin today also said that he had been in contact with the White House and that the White House was vaguely considering a policy similar to Title 42. Is there, if it's the difference between passing aid for Ukraine and not, is there any scenario where the president would support and the White House would support these proposals by Republicans that are also backed by Donald Trump and Stephen Miller?
I really can't get into hypotheticals from here. I can't negotiate from here. They're having conversations right now. Don't want to get ahead of that. Want to let folks have those conversations. We know and we understand, the president understands, he said this, that we need to come, in order to get this done, there has to be a bipartisan compromise. We have to find a bipartisan compromise. I'm just not going to go into...
His statement, though, even saying that he's open to compromise, that came after some of these proposals were outlined. That came after Republicans said what they wanted here. Nationwide expedited removal, authority for expulsion. So even just him saying that he's open to compromise, does that not mean he's open to compromise? This president has signed more bipartisan legislation than any modern day president. He has, right? You've seen him taking historic action on a few bipartisan issues, right? Let's think about the budget deal, right? That was done in a bipartisan way. So it's not just this. We understand in order to come up with a compromise and get things done on behalf of the American people, you have to find a bipartisan way to do that. And so that's what I'm saying. I want to be really mindful. There are negotiations literally happening. I'm not going to, from the podium, start saying what the president's going to accept, not to accept, or getting to hypotheticals. That's not going to help the process that we're trying to deliver on for the American people. I'm just not going to get ahead of that.
Okay.
Do you expect him, I know it hasn't happened yet, but do you expect him to call members to the White House, to call members to Delaware to discuss this?
I don't have anything to add to the calendar or the schedule about the president inviting anyone here. What I can say is, and I said this moments ago, that the president has had conversations with congressional leaders, and so has his staff, who have been negotiating on his behalf. Karen, go ahead. Oh, no,
I have questions for Kirby.
no, it's okay, John. No, good, John. I was trying to call on people I hadn't called yet. No, trying to keep my word here.
The president announced the $200 million security assistance package yesterday for Ukraine from the presidential drawdown. How many more times does the administration anticipate that they can turn to that before the end of the year? How much money is left in that at this point?
It's a really good question. Look, we have roughly about $1 billion left in the replenishment authority. And so just to give a little bit of background on what that is, it is the process by which the DoD buys new weapons and equipment from American manufacturers to replace older equipment we are sending Ukraine, a process that is supporting manufacturing jobs across our country as DoD has jump-started and expanded production lines to support Ukraine. So $1 billion is left. Approximately 96% of replenishment funding has already been used, and the Department of Defense is preparing to allocate the remaining 4% this month. So that's what we're looking at. And so once we run out of the replenishment funds, we will not be able to backfill our own stocks, as I just laid out at the top, and replace what we send to Ukraine. And that is what is at stake here. That is one of the reasons you heard from President Zelensky, and he spoke very forcefully during the press conference with the president. That's why he went to Congress, to have that conversation, the importance of having our support so that they can continue to fight the tyranny that they're dealing with on the ground.